Hi there, welcome back again. It's Mark with another episode of Last Week I Watched, where I watch things and provide reviews and feedback on whether or not those movies and TV are worth watching. So, this week I watched The Craft Legacy, The Big Lebowski, The Whole Truth, Doctor Who Flux, The Cleanse, and Velvet Buzzsaw. So let's talk about them. Okay, first up was The Craft Legacy. It's from 2020. It starred Kaylee Spaney, David Duchovny, and Michelle Monaghan. It was showing on Prime. So the movie's about a group of high school girls, and they form a coven of witches. The film is supposed to be a continuation of the original 1996 film, but it's basically a remake. Unfortunately, this one is more of a teen drama. It's not to say that the original didn't have teen drama elements, but this is very strongly just a teen drama type of film. The girls in this are facing up against some kind of man-only warlock, and rather than being a lesson about their own power corrupting, it becomes a sort of unsubtle feminism versus alpha male thing. Look, I've got nothing against making commentary on gender politics, so it certainly needs to have some commentary made about it. You know, women do not get a fair shake of things in the world, and so it's entirely appropriate that we try and move things. But this film has no shades of grey. They're either good or really, really bad. And in this case, the men are predominantly really, really bad, and the women are good. And, you know, the world doesn't work like that. Not all men are bad, not all men are against women. You know, some men are fully supportive of women. I'm just saying that it perhaps needed to be a little less ham-fisted. Also, the story is very basic. It's almost non-existent. The magic's pretty useless too. It's all been done better in the original film. The effects are pretty lousy in this. The whole thing just has an air of TV movie cheapness about it. There isn't even any scariness to the movie. The whole thing has no threat, and I do wonder whether it's likely because it has a PG-13 rating, whereas the original film was R. It's something I really wish studios would stop doing. They ruin popular franchises. Oh, admittedly, this only had one film, but it was originally an R, and you know, the primary appeal was that it had a certain amount of darkness and horror and edginess to it, and appealed to adults. And by making them PG-13, they end up creating a middling product that's trying to please everyone but ultimately pleases no one. And this very much fits into that category. The ending is also pretty useless too. It doesn't build up to anything important. It really just kind of fizzles out when she defeats the evil man. And you know, as such, it doesn't really have a lot to say about the gender politics anyway. So there's a very loose connection here to the girls in the original film. I think they're basically referenced in a photo, and there's an end scene where they had shown Nancy from the original film, and she's in a mental institution. And frankly, that was more interesting for the couple of minutes it ran than the entire story I just watched. If they were serious about doing a continuation, they could have brought back the original girls and made the new girls children of the original girls, something like that. You could have had the original characters mentor them as they come into their power, as they all, you know, and they all maybe team up to fight some great evil, or, you know, maybe some lessons about, I don't know, girl power and solidarity, and, you know, and standing up for fighting for, you know, for the what's right or whatever, to improve their place in the world. There's a lot of things they could have done with this, and they just didn't. They just sort of squandered on a sort of a generic teen Mean Girls type movie. But, you know, even Mean Girls sort of has more to say than this does. So overall, I don't recommend watching it. Go watch the original The Craft instead. It's a much better film. Also, shame on this film for getting one of the talented leads from the original movie, Fairuza Balk, and then wasting her in a 30-second cameo a la Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker in The Force Awakens. Just disappointing on so many levels of the whole film. Okay, next up was The Big Lebowski. It's a film from 1998 starring Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, and Julianne Moore. This was showing on Prime. This is about ultimate LA slacker Jeff the Dude Lebowski. He's mistaken for a millionaire of the same name, and he seeks restitution for a rug that gets ruined by debt collectors. And he enlists his bowling buddy Walter for help while trying to find the millionaire's missing wife. This crime comedy is from the Coen brothers, who also gave us Fargo and Raising Arizona. It follows the collection of oddballs on a screwy adventure that the dude isn't even interested in being involved in. He's just a chill guy, he likes to bowl and relax, and he sort of has this chaos forced upon him. He's just trying to do the right thing and get his rug back. His bowling buddy Walter is trying to help, but his volatile temper gets in the way and ultimately causes more chaos. The actors in this film, they do a really great job. Whether this is just an inspired piece of casting or not, they really inhabit these characters, and I'd have no trouble believing that Bridges is the dude. John Goodman also does a great job as Walter, who may or may not have PTSD. He's constantly going off on tirades about Vietnam, and he just goes from zero to angry, at the drop of a hat. Although he's not sort of overly threatening or anything like that. You just pull a gun on someone, but as the dude puts it, you're just an asshole. And that pretty much covers Walter. The assortment of odd characters that pop up around them are fun also. Donnie tries to help but nobody listens. Jesus is out to beat them in the bowling tournament, but he may or may not be a pederast. The nihilists are after some recompense. After all, this whole thing has cost one of them a toe, and it's just a fun collection of assorted people going through some bizarre events over a couple of days. Also, the Big Lebowski of the title, he's less of a great man than a pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. He's all lies and image. Also, special mention to Sam Elliott as the stranger. He narrates a bit, and I'm not sure if he's supposed to be like a supreme being or what he is, but he's fun when he's on screen, and he sparks well off the dude. He just kind of pops up and they, I guess, chat and dispense some advice about life, and it's good fun. It's also very cleverly written, and the movie is extremely quotable. There's also some really fun sequences where the dude is knocked unconscious, and he has these vivid dream sequences. They're often suggestive of what's going on in his head at the time, and they're really fun. There's sort of almost like a Busby Berkeley musical number type thing with dancing girls in bowling-inspired costumes where they've got bowling ball bras and sort of pins for hats. It's just very clever. There's a few twists and turns in the story, and like life, they seem strange and chaotic, but that's just kind of how life goes, and the dude just kind of rolls along with it and surprisingly manages to put it together by the end. He's very much the accidental detective. This movie's really a classic now, and if you haven't seen it before, you should definitely check it out. Okay, next up was The Whole Truth. It's a film from 2021 starring Sompal Benjakithal, Sadanot Duran Kuroj, and Stephen Isarapong. As you can guess by the names, it's a Thai film. This was showing on Netflix. So this is about two siblings. They get sent to stay with their grandparents they never knew they had, and they stumble on a strange hole in the wall of their grandparents' house, and horrifying incidents reveal sinister secrets about their family. The movie is quite an effective supernatural story where its forces from the other side are trying to reveal truths from the past to the children. It's initially quite a slow burn though, as it establishes the characters and odd behaviours are revealed and strange events start to happen. Looking through the hole, they see into another home where terrifying events are seen. Different people see different things, and some people can't see the hole at all, and the hole may or may not be showing them events from the past. The effects are very good, such as they are, and the ghost figures are in keeping with the usual Asian horror tropes. Some of the visuals are quite scary looking, and there are a few twists in the story, some of which you may see coming before you reach the end. The biggest downside to the movie, though, is it is quite long. At 2 hours, it could have used some editing to slim it down. Some storylines have no real importance to the story, such as like the teenage girl's sort of bullying and things that she's going through at school and stuff like that. I didn't feel like they overly affected the home story, which is more what it's all about. You could argue it's slow while it's building suspense, though, which it does do quite well. So I still enjoyed it. It's an original haunted house story. Give it a look if you're interested in the genre, but be aware it's a Thai movie, so you will need to watch with subtitles unless you can tolerate terrible dubbing. Okay, next up was Doctor Who Flux. It's the current season of Doctor Who from 2021. It stars Jodie Whittaker, Mandip Gill and John Bishop, and I watched this off the Apple Store. In this season, the Doctor tries to stop a galaxy-destroying event, as usual, caused by the enigmatic Flux. It's great to see a return to the serialized nature of a Doctor Who story. I grew up on the old Doctor Who stories. The fourth Doctor, particularly with the long scarf, was my Doctor, but I've certainly seen the older ones as well. I always felt the serials gave you more of a chance to tell a larger story, since you'd have time to flesh out the characters and the story a lot more than you do in the sort of normal, 40 minutes or whatever. Unfortunately, this season highlights what I think has become a problem with Doctor Who's writing. There's just way too much going on all the time, all at once. It's certainly epic, and it's spanning many locations, and its effect work is beautiful. They do look like mini movies now, but it's also kind of a giant mess. And I know they think they're being really clever as well by leaning hard into the time travel aspect, and in this case, other dimensions and sort of multiverses and things like that. But I had a really hard time keeping up with the story in this. It's jumping around constantly. You've got multiple people in multiple plot lines and characters that don't really go anywhere or have much to do. And the main plot line just kind of fizzles at the end, leaving you wondering what the hell you just watched. I'm still not sure whether most of the galaxy is destroyed or not at the end of it. I'm also not going into the ongoing storyline involving the changing of the Doctor's heritage. Now, in this, she's apparently no longer Gallifreyan or half-human, but something else entirely, and they sort of touched on that a bit at the end of last season as well. That plot thread is still dangled tantalizingly all through the story, and there's more story about the division, but ultimately it really comes to nothing, with her electing to drop her memories into an opening in the TARDIS console. I'm guessing that means that we can see it surface again at some point in the future, or maybe it'll just disappear down that hole, never to be seen again, who knows. Look, it was great to see the Sontarans again, and the Weeping Angels, although at this point I'm not sure that they're undermining their own premise, so maybe it's time to give them a rest. And the Luparu were okay, even if they were just suddenly retconned into existence. Apparently space dogs that protect us is a thing now. We've all got an allocated dog, apparently. Apparently they must strictly control their breeding population to produce a dog for every human, but anyway, I guess we're not going to question that. Then we also had the Swarm, the Cybermen, Daleks, unit, and some snake thing called the Grand Serpent. It's all just too much. The cast were trying their best. John Bishop seems to be a really good companion. I hope that they bring him back or continue him on for a bit longer. I'm not sure why they felt that the Doctor and Yaz need to have some kind of lesbian relationship as well. It's been pretty well established through the Doctor's other incarnations that she is apart from all that, so it just seems weird. And, we've kind of done we had a previous companion that was a lesbian, so we've kind of broken ground on that anyway. We've had, doctors and companions that, the companions had infatuations with the Doctor, but as mentioned, he's just not that interested. So, it seems weird again to I guess, to go there again, but anyway, whatever. There are a lot of side characters also that we didn't spend time on that also don't seem to do much to benefit the story. There's a couple that are trying to be reunited through all this, and we do spend quite a bit of time with them, but it really didn't feel like it came to much of anything, and at the end of it I just went, why did we spend so much time following them? It just seemed like more busy work. The whole thing really felt like, they should have done the script and then made a few more passes on it and just culled it down to what it needed to be. At the end, it was sort of everything in the kitchen sink. And I'm really not even sure that I understood it all by the end. I have to admit I had to go back and look up some explanations on it just to be able to write this review. I think the thing they have to really remember is that it's always story first. It shouldn't just be endless spectacle for the sake of it. And this season was like a child with attention deficit disorder. It's like, look here, look there, no, look here, wait at this, wait, now look at this. It's just not their best work. And part of me wondered if the outgoing team producing the show just threw up a list of things they'd wanted to do, and just put them all in so they could finish their bucket list before they went. It's just all over the place. It's just got so much going on. It's not terrible, and if you're interested, by all means check it out. I'd certainly be interested in your thoughts if you want to leave some comments below. But if you're like me, you'll probably be left breathless and confused by the end of it. Honestly, I felt exhausted by the end of the episodes often, and I just needed to have some quiet time and to attempt to try to digest what the hell I just saw, and try and untangle everything that's going on in your brain. I hear that the show is about to undergo another regeneration, so hopefully the new team will come in and settle it all back down a bit. If they're going to go back to the serialized format, I'd be okay with that. I'd be quite happy with that, but just have a better plotted story that's just not insane. The older stories did that really well. You could have a single villain, and you could have a story that would run for 4, 6, however many episodes, and it would be fine. You have things happen, you gradually develop the characters, you care about the characters then when something happens to them, because you took time to be with them and to get to know them and to establish them. Whereas I find in the usual 40-minute thing, you barely get to know them and something terrible happens and they're gone and you're like, oh well, fine. It's a lot, and so let's hope that the new season will be a good reset when they come in. Okay, next up was The Cleanse. It's from 2016. It starred Johnny Galecki, Anna Friel, Angelica Houston, and Oliver Platt. It was showing on Netflix. So this is about a heartbroken man. He attends a spiritual retreat to cleanse himself and fix his broken life. There he meets a fellow lost soul, and together they discover that the cleanse releases more than everyday toxins, a lot more. This is weirdly kind of marketed as some kind of horror, but it's actually more of a quirky comedy drama. This might be the first cleanse I've ever seen that actually does something, and I think it might actually, if it worked in real life, it'd probably be quite good for people. You get introduced to a small group of people that have various issues they need help with. Paul's the main character. He's been left heartbroken by his girlfriend and he's just kind of existing rather than living. He's emotionally trapped and he's going nowhere, but he at least wants to change, and so he embarks on the cleanse. There he meets Maggie, who he strikes a connection with. The cleanse camp has a few other people in their group. It has a vaguely sort of cult vibe with an unseen leader and sort of weird hippy-dippy kind of people running it. When they're there, they're given individual cleansing drinks and some fairly strict rules. They have to drink 3 or 4 jars of this goop. It's been customized only for them, so they must only drink their own, and they have to complete them all no matter what. So when they get given all this stuff, you're sort of wondering where all this is going. Is this a cult thing? Are they going to end up brainwashed or something? But what happens is they drink all this stuff and then weirdly their bodies evacuate all their emotional issues. And they manifest as small creatures with behaviours similar to their owners. The creatures are probably the closest you'll get to body horror in the film, but they're not menacing or scary or anything like that. They're actually quite cute. They're very well done. I'm guessing they're probably puppets or something like that. Like Gremlins though, the creatures start to have some issues. They're not major. They're not going to run amok and destroy a town or anything like that. But I guess the longer they hang around, they do sort of impact on their owners a little bit. So in Frederick's case, he's been unable to kill his creature after expelling it. And I guess what you could say, he metaphorically can't let go of his fears, and ultimately he's consumed by his creature. His creature grows to a ludicrous size. Paul's and Maggie's creature develop an attachment to each other and ultimately try to merge, sort of fusing into a weird hybrid. The creatures are an interesting metaphor made real for their issues, and it helps them on their journey to realizing they need to let go of their emotional baggage and move forward. I actually really enjoyed this movie. It's not a long film, and that's fine. It gets in, says what it has to say, and gets out again. It's got a good cast, they all do a good job, and it moves along at a good pace, and it's quite entertaining. And sometimes that's all you need, so it's worth a look. Check it out. Okay, finally today, the last film is Velvet Buzzsaw. It's from 2019, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Rene Russo, Toni Collette, John Malkovich, and it was showing on Netflix. So this is a satire set in the contemporary art world scene of Los Angeles, where big money artists and mega collectors pay a high price when art collides with commerce. Art critic Morph Vandewalt, one of the more interesting names I've seen, is played by Gyllenhaal. He critiques art, well aware that his opinion can make or break an artist. The gallery owners around him are selling art for ludicrous prices, and they pander to him for good reviews, while artificially controlling the supply of art to create demand and keep the prices high. When Morph's friend Josephina stumbles on a collection of art by Deese, he's a recently deceased artist who was previously unknown and whose art turns out to be actually quite good, she uses his art to move up in the art world. However, he had actually left instructions for his art to be destroyed for specific reasons that you'll find out over the course of the film, and his art was not intended for public consumption. It turns out, as it progresses on and people are becoming insanely rich off this art, and it's becoming very popular and it's selling very well, and the art dealers are controlling the supply of it and driving the price up to ludicrous levels, and it's become massive. It turns out the art has supernatural powers, and it begins killing anyone who has it in their possession. I enjoyed the movie. It's an interesting satire on a largely artificial world populated by fake and largely talentless people profiting on other people's skill and creativity. They're like parasites feeding on the work of these artists. Even though art is subjective and everybody has their likes and dislikes, the so-called critics and gallery owners are gaming the system to make themselves rich and create exclusivity for the art, which should be able to be enjoyed by everyone. You know, they don't really care about the art or enjoy it. They're just trying to profit from it, whether it's social status or financial status. So it's really interesting when the art starts to fight back. It's very much a movie of a bitter, angry artist, and the director mentions he conceived of this film after having wasted a year working on Superman Lives, only for the film to be abruptly cancelled by Warner Brothers. So if this is his outlet for that, you can feel his frustration, and I think some of the same issues with the art world are plaguing the cinema world, with corporations largely concerned only with making profit by churning out endless derivatives rather than original art. Heck, even a mix would be good at this point. The film has a really great cast, and you move around the art world through these various characters and the different roles they play in this world. When the bodies start to pile up, the deaths are creative, almost artistic you could say. It does get quite bloody, accenting the scene with a liberal application of red often. I recommend watching the movie. It's got some original ideas, some commentary to make about the world through the satire, and surprisingly some horror. And being a satire too, it's not one of those sort of goofy satires like Airplane or Naked Gun. It's not that kind of, you know, crazed humour, but it is definitely poking fun at the art world. I was pleasantly surprised by it. It made a good change from slashers, and I enjoyed it, so highly recommend check it out. Alright, so those are my suggestions for this week. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave them below in the comments, and I'd be happy to read them. If you have any suggestions for things to watch as well, that would also be welcomed. And as always, please click on the like and subscribe button. It'll be somewhere on the screen, or probably below the video. And don't forget to click on the bell so that you'll get notified when the next set of reviews comes out. Also, I have a link below to a Twitter account as well if you want to follow what I'm watching, and if you want to talk about movies or TV, feel free to tweet me. Alright, so thanks for watching my reviews. I hope you're all well out there. Stay safe out there. I know COVID is still being a problem, so I hope you're all healthy and well and enjoying some movies and TV. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.